Welcome to Café Con Leche with Liz
and Lil. Hi, sis.
Hey, Queen. How you doing?
I am so good. I'm in a good mood today. I got my coffee. Check out that mug. I think I'm going to change them out every now and again, just for funsies, because I forgot I've got some fun mugs in my cupboard over there. But yeah, I'm good. I'm excellent. It's a beautiful day outside. I think I'm going to go for a bike ride later.
Ooh, come on, bike ride.
I know. My mom sent me some avocados from Puerto Rico. My mom is in Puerto Rico right now, and she sent me 1, 2, 3, 7 aguacates. They are so big and beautiful. And
so jealous. I'm allergic now, so I can't eat them anymore.
Of course. You're allergic to everything. The world is trying to take you out.
I hate it.
How are you?
I'm good. I am on my second pot of coffee.
Ooh.
And, feeling serene and crazy on the inside.
I was going to say, serene would not even be a part of my makeup if I had had 2 pots of coffee.
Yeah, it's one of those days, Yeah, speaking of mugs, a lot of my stuff is in storage because, quarantine, lease ended. So I'm in a temporary place right now. But I'm looking forward to moving and getting my mugs and also getting to swap in and out with you. Although I am very partial to this gold chick. Thank you.
So pretty.
Hopkins.
I know. Thank you, Demita. Yeah, that's so pretty. Yeah, I saw one that I can't wait to show it to you next week because it makes me laugh every time I see it. So we have some Sassy Bennies today.
Oh my gosh, so sassy. Benny edition, episode 11.
Yeah, Benny edition / Canada edition because they're both Canadian.
Ooh.
Surprise.
Who we got today?
I'm going to tell you. We have the absolutely hilarious and also sassy Stephen Charles and the unbelievably sassy and charming Mr. Alex Nicholson. I cannot wait to talk to these boys. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call them boys. To these men. These men. So you wanna get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Woo!
Welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you both here. It's the 11th episode.
11th
episode, Benny edition.
Canadian Benny edition.
I know.
Canadian Benny edition.
Canada's in the house today.
Bringing you that Canadian melanin, baby.
You know how we do. We get some sun up here too sometimes.
Yeah, everybody's wrong. Everybody thinks it's all snow and rain up in Canada.
Igloos. Yeah.
It's hot. It gets hot in the summer.
And white people. You're wrong.
What? Well, that's a thing. There's definitely a lot of those.
That's definitely real.
Right. So now, where are you guys coming to us from today?
I'm coming from South Shore, Massachusetts, just about 20 minutes south of Boston, hanging out with my in-laws here.
Okay. Stephen.
I have family in Massachusetts too. But I'm coming straight from Canada. I'm in Laval, a suburb of Montreal, and it's a beautiful sunny day today.
Laval, Montreal.
Laval, Montreal, yes, here with the rents, the parents.
So many people are quarantining with the parents. So I love that. It's the silver lining. There are not many, but a silver lining of getting to spend time with family that you usually are like, I have a show, I have another show, I can come home for a day. I can't, you know what I mean? That's yes, it's important to find silver linings. But before we get much further, gentlemen, you know what we really, really want to know.
My favorite.
We want to know, how do you like your cafe? Do you like it hot? Do you like it sweet? Do you like it a little crazy? Like you put some interesting things that other people don't do? You know, you're living la vida loca through your cafe.
Hey, she's into superstition.
Ow.
Wrong song.
Steven.
Yeah, this is my favorite question because I'm a basic bitch. I just like my coffee black, just like my skin.
Yes.
I'll put a little bit of brown sugar in there sometimes, a little sweetness. And
brown on brown.
And sometimes I'm a little like Vanessa, and you know me, a little bit of cinnamon. So that's about it.
Well, day to day, I do just milk, a little bit of milk and coffee. But because I am also somewhat of a basic bitch, I love my Starbucks. So I'll go there and I'll get a quad grande 2-pump white mocha Americano misto, and that.
Are you listening? Are you listening, Starbucks?
No
plug. When I was in every show that I do, every audition I do, like every show that I show up for, I always have that coffee. Every audition I go to, I drink coffee before auditions. I don't know what that's about, but that's my go-to drink. But I can't make it at home. But I probably could, right?
Well, you can order, you can buy the bags of coffee they sell at the Starbucks. So, really, you could buy their coffee and then figure out how to do it for yourself.
That's Sounds like work. I'll just let them do it.
Right?
Yeah.
So, this is the first time we're kind of bringing up coffee other than Bustelo, which I think is kind of interesting because I am not drinking Bustelo today.
Oh, my God.
Traitor!
Me neither. I ran out last time.
So
you guys.
I actually, listen, mira. I finished my Bustelo this morning and I made another pot for this specifically. But I wanted to shout out Herkimer Coffee in Seattle, Washington. Because when we were there, 4 Heights, I was obsessed with this coffee shop and bought coffee for all of my family. I bought like 20 bags of coffee and they had to grind all of it for me. And my mother still had 2 bags and I was like, give me that. So I'm drinking some Herkimer Coffee, Seattle, Washington.
I love that. I ran out of Bustelo as like last time, our last recording, and I just haven't had a chance to go get some more. But my husband drinks the stuff that I order him from Oregon, called Bigfoot Coffee. I love their stuff. It's so yummy. So please, if you're listening, Bigfoot Coffee, if you could send us some more. I don't know if you still make your Yeti blend, but we love that shit. But
this episode is brought to you by the Pacific Northwest.
And Canada.
Yeah!
So I was like, well, I'm just gonna have this coffee. I went with a different mug today, because she's feeling happy, but sometimes she's feeling sad.
Yeah, let's talk about our mugs first.
I know, for those of you who are only listening, who are not watching the video, I have a yellow mug that's got a emoji smiley face on one side, and then on the other side, it's got a winky face.
I love it. It really puts me in a good mood.
Steven, who's on your mug?
Like this. This is my goddaughter, niece. Her name is Kyla. She's Francophone. She speaks French, and she runs her mouth all day long. She's 3,
so cute.
And she says full sentences and everything. And this is my other niece, who looks like a Cabbage Patch doll. What's her name?
Oh.
You better know her damn name.
I love her. Anime. Eat the cake,
no.
Anime. I'm right? Everyone has the same reaction.
He was frozen.
Oh, did you get it?
No, I was covering for you. Never mind.
We got Anime. We just were like, does he know it? Does he know it?
I got it.
And he was making excuses for you. He was like, oh, he was frozen.
I love her though. She's on her way to making full sentences as well.
She's gorgeous. And are you drinking Starbucks?
No, I'm drinking oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
Is it Folgers?
No, I do sing Folgers in the shower, but it's Maxwell House. Do you guys know Maxwell?
Maxwell House,
yeah.
Okay.
Hey, do you also do that? Do you do that all the time? Because I do that all the time. Even though I've been in the States for almost a decade, I still have to check in to find out if things are Canadian or American.
Right,
because
all
I'm
the
still
time.
Is that what? Do you guys have that?
Do you guys do that here?
And no, this is also brought to you by the West Coast. This is San Francisco Bay coffee.
Hey now.
Excuse me.
A little caramel, a little nutty.
Mira. You hear that, Bustelo? If you don't start sending us some stuff, we're going to start shouting out all these other coffee companies.
Okay, all right.
They in the house.
Okay.
Are you listening, Bustelo? Listen, we have tried to be true to you. We have tried.
I know.
And you don't give us any love back.
Come on.
I know. We tag them. We're like shouting them out. No. They're like having nothing to do with us. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
We'll move on.
We still gonna drink you though.
Yeah, I'm still gonna buy some after this is done.
But warning, you're on. Just saying. Okay. Anyway,
Right.
Gentlemen, how has so you're quarantining with your in-laws / with your parents? How has quarantine been for you? And like, have the arts helped you in any way getting through it? Have you pulled away from the arts? Like, what is it that has helped you getting through quarantine? Alex.
So, for me, since I've been in quarantine, I've really been trying to take care of myself more, and that's kind of manifested itself in different ways. So theater has been in a little bit of a backseat, but I also think theater lives and breathes in you, whether you're doing it or not. Like, I've been doing a lot more reading. I've been binging a lot of TV, and a lot of these things have been kind of therapeutic for me. I mean, the TV is more just my type A being like, I have so much TV I want to watch and I can never get it done. And that's kind of like just anxiety and things that sit in my head. But in terms of the reading, I've done a lot of reading, and it's really kind of opened up my mind and opened up my soul. And I've learned so much, especially, I'm sure we'll get there, but with Black Lives Matter and all these things that are going on in our country right now, I have found myself really checking in with myself and realizing that there's so much more that I can do, and so much more that I can and so much more that I can do with more knowledge. So it's kind of been where my focus has been.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's so much more you can do for yourself when you have that knowledge, right? Like when you know your history. I'm reading this book now that you say that. It's called Know Thyself, and it's like a really
Who's it by?
By Naeem Akbar. And it's all about the personal development and education and motivation of African-American people.
Will you send that to me after this?
Yes, absolutely. It's such a quick read, but it's full of awesome knowledge that makes you realize sort of like societal exchanges. You know?
I'm always so surprised when I was actually having this exact conversation yesterday with Emily Madigan, our dear friend Emily Madigan. Shout out to Emily Madigan. You know, she had an experience recently where she was with other Black folk, and you know, one of them, it became abundantly clear that they had no knowledge of what was happening, and any deeper knowledge of gosh, basically the thing that made her perk her ears was one of them goes, "What is Blue Lives Matter?" And she was like, well, that's the thing that people try to compare to Black Lives Matter, as if, you know, they come out of their house painted blue, you know, as if they were born blue, you know. And so she just was so shocked. And I am always so shocked when I'm like, how are you not engaging in this moment? This moment is about you. This moment is like, you know, so it always kills me. And I'm just like, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Take
if I can just say, I was just gonna say really quickly, I had a falling out with a friend of mine of like a decade who is white, and they when George Floyd was murdered and everything was like at its highest peak, I decided to do something nice by taking two of my best friends who are in a thread with me and provide them with some information of like 30-day challenges that I had found or some articles that I found. I said, here's some things that you can do. This person turned that into like a devil's advocate type of situation where they went through a day or two and they were like, I don't get this. Why are they saying this? I'm not racist. I don't hang out with those people, blah, 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 and wasn't really taking in the learning, and was instead like turning it into like, explain to me why this is something that I should care about. And this person also has always been very like, doesn't care about politics, like tries to keep it out of their minds, doesn't like to get involved in things, just like likes their life. And like that itself is a privilege, right? So that's something that I'm coming to terms with, because to some extent I've had that too, which has been part of what this experience has been for me in quarantine, is like really kind of opening up, like unearthing all those layers. But just in response to what you were saying about Emily's friend, like and we're fine now because we've been able to have that conversation, really hash it out. But that was something that was really jarring to me, and I'm seeing it more and more. It's people are now being forced to face things they don't want to face. And that's like hard for them. And it's like, well, why don't you try walking a day in this life? Because it's every day. Okay. Welcome to the party.
It's an interesting. I was actually just at my mother's house for her birthday. Happy birthday, Mom! Come
so
on,
when this comes out, it'll be 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah. She's gonna be like, "Whoa, thanks." We'll get her on here one day. She'll take my job. But anyway, my like I feel like any true Puerto Rican, my family is all shapes, colors, and it was interesting in the best way I'm the oldest of my first cousins, but they're all, I'm in my 30s and they're all getting up there as well. And they're all teenagers and have opinions and whatnot and are having their own life experiences. So it was really nice to have conversations with them about what is happening in the world and their experiences, especially since we are all Latino and we all look different and people perceive us differently. You know what I mean? And Stephen has been to my mom's famous birthday barbecues, and he's seen all of my cousins, and it's the rainbow. And it was interesting having even a conversation with my grandmother, who is in her 90s, about Trump. And having those conversations with her, because maybe she doesn't always understand what she's hearing, or when she's hearing about certain things in the media, the way she's taking it in, certain things seem positive to her that are not. And having to tell her, like, okay, let's turn this back around. What if I was not here right now because somebody decided my fate for me and killed me? Let's talk about this, So having those conversations is so important with family and friends. And I think that's like a big, big part of the work. Whether it be sexuality, politics, all of that, it is so important. I feel like that's coming more and more to light.
Such a tricky place to be, because just to like bring it all full circle with quarantine, like we were all exposed to so much on social media because we had the opportunity to be, like most people were at home. So it brought light to a lot of things. And then being at home with my parents, who I've had my own like struggles with, and being in the States, but originally coming from Canada, and kind of like Alex was saying, having that privilege of certain things we didn't necessarily deal with to that extent. It's just been a crazy like journey for all of us.
And actually this puts me in the direction of something that I really love that Alyssa has recently started asking some of our guests, which is, with everything going on with the quarantine, with the Black Lives Matter resurgence and the what is the word I'm looking for? The propel, the push, I guess. Is there anything that you've thought of within our community, within the theater community, within the work that we do, of things that you thought of as you about you as a performer that you want to strive to do better, to do different, to habits that you want to cultivate within yourself and within the artists that you work with going forward, that you have discovered during this time?
Well, a pattern I'm noticing is that, I think around me, companies want to learn more and be more inclusive, and I support that. I think personally with my art creation, it has served as two different purposes. So a part of it has been like escapism and like sort of celebrating joy and how far we have come without just dwelling on all the work that needs to be done. But also I've been like writing world songs and sort of inspirational songs since I was a kid without even knowing how much work needed to be done, just knowing life's struggles. And so for me, my work has been sort of consistent. I sort of took a like depression break when all this happened.
Absolutely. I think you were not alone. I think a lot of people took depression breaks.
You know, and it's tricky with exposure and how much stuff, how often you're on social media and how much you take in, especially when you're one who is of color, when you're the subject being talked about, and sort of looking within and trying to figure out what it is you can do to change. And I find myself often putting a lot of pressure on myself, like it's up to me to change the whole world. But I think it's, for me, I've just personally not put too much pressure, not judge myself, my journey too much, and just try to keep creating content that will help educate others, you know, while educating myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What about you, Alex?
Well, I think the overarching realization that I've had is to just appreciate and enjoy the fact that I'm always a work in progress and that I'm always evolving, and not judge it, which is still very hard. It's so much easier said than done. But I mean, what the resurgence of Black Lives Matter really did for me was finally come to terms with my blackness in a way that I never have before. I don't know about Stephen, but I know for me, coming from Ottawa, Canada, I was surrounded by a lot of white people. My mom's white, you know, who was kind of more of a present. My dad has been a great dad, but he was always working. My mom was the one who was at home, you know, kind of holding it down. So that was just kind of the culture that I was raised in. Same with high school. It was a lot of white people. So my Blackness and microaggressions towards me and people's impressions of me, you know, oh, like you're a little bit of an Oreo, or oh, you know, you're like, you're not really Black, like things like that. I would kind of just take it and be like, haha, yeah, you know, because I wasn't ready to accept it myself, I think, in some ways, because I didn't feel connected to that community. I didn't feel like I fit in with that community. And so when I got to New York, you know, and I was seeing like people of color, beautiful people of color everywhere, just so comfortable in their skin, it was like jarring to me. And I feel like I pushed myself even further away. I, you know, looked at them as people who wouldn't want to accept me. And so in turn, I didn't accept them. Not like, but I just mean like, I was like, oh, like that, they'll never want to see, they'll never want to hang out with me, you know? So when this happened, I was connected to it in a way that I saw everyone else was. And that I was like, wow, if nothing else, people of color all connect in their experiences of suppression, in their experiences of feeling less than, in their experiences of not being represented. So that was a huge eye opener for me. And so now I'm really working to connect more with what that is, more with what being a Black man is. And it isn't about, and at the end of the day, isn't about being a Black man. It's about being Alex Nicholson, but it's about understanding. It's about understanding and accepting all parts of me. Mm-hmm. And that is going to translate only so much better when I get back into theater more, because even when I played Benny, you know, like I approached Benny from a way that I feel like was different than a lot of people that I've seen play Benny before. And that was because I was surrounded by this really awesome community of people that embraced me and accepted me for who I was. And I felt comfortable to do that. I didn't feel like I had to be like the Black Benny from Harlem. I felt like I could just be Alex, you know? So being able to kind of open that up across all walks of artistry that I exist in is exciting and new, and like something that I am so actively, you know, insistent upon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Come on. I connect with a lot of that, Alex. Like,
yeah. And I feel like a big thing across the board is like, you know, we as actors have felt so powerless to voice anything. that hit us the wrong way, that like, you know, because we're like, you know, we always think to ourselves, they can replace us, you know. And I think that I mentioned this a couple times now, that I think that in all of this we have found that I'm like, wait a minute, my voice has power. You know, and like, so this is what I was going to say earlier before we started recording, which is a few weeks ago, we had to edit a whole chunk out of one of our, because I started talking about a project that had not been announced yet. And so I was like, shit. Could you edit that out? It's not announced, but now I can talk about it. So last episode I mentioned I was going into the studio to record the album for Ride the Cyclone, which is a show that I've been working on. And I went in on Saturday and it was amazing. I was so excited. Anyway, the thing that I want to say is like, so I have found in this time that I'm like, no, I have to believe that I have power in the things that I say. My voice has power, and it has power if I'm willing to sacrifice, if I'm willing to stand up and say, I will not, this is not okay. So we had decided that we were going to do this, and they were making some choices as far as casting. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it. That I was like, listen, if you don't use all of your people of color that you've cast, I am going to lose my head. So I wrote to our writer and our lyricist, and I was like, listen, guys, for a long time, Lillian, was the only person of color carrying this weight for this show. And it would not be okay with me if that went back to that, because that's not okay. And they were so wonderful. They were like, yes, of course. Oh my gosh. Yes. We want to involve everybody that's been cast in the show. And we're totally going to use the entire cast. And it was thrilling for me, because if they'd have said no, I'd have been like, great, then I'm out. But, just so you know, I'm going to leave like this. This is racist. That's right. They're racist. Everybody, this is racist. Okay? I'm going to leave, but this is racist.
Goodbye.
Okay.
And rewind to me at my computer, like, where is that comment? Okay, where is the racist? There it is. Great.
Gully.
I'm like, I'm not just going to back up into the bushes silently. So it just, I'm really glad that it's happening the way that it's happening. It's like really beautiful that, myself and my friend Scott Redmond, are on the album, repping for our Latina and Black communities.
Yes.
And,
Thank you so much.
It's just like, it's like a dream come true, the whole thing. And because we've been waiting for so long to do this. Yeah. And you know what? Even if it sells one copy of the damn thing, I will buy it. And
it's at least going to sell 4.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4. And for all our listeners, it should come out in August, but like keep an eye out for it. Mm-hmm. By the Cyclone, a concept album. So yeah, it felt good to be like, you know what, I think that this should happen. And if it doesn't happen, then I don't want to be involved. And I was ready to step away, you know, and that was scary and sad, because it was something that I had dedicated so much time to, but that's the power, right? That's what it is. That's going, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm out.
Mm-hmm. And you realize once you say something, most of the time people will be like, oh yeah, like I just wasn't thinking, you know. It takes a second for people to put other people before what they think of themselves. But you go through so much personal anxiety, internal struggle on whether I should say something. But once you do set that boundary, most of the time it's respected and they consider you. And that's what the arts are for more than anything. We are the voice to like change people's perspectives and make people realize something they hadn't maybe thought of before. So I applaud you for that work.
Yeah, thank you, my love. And I just am so happy that we're there. I'm so happy.
This has actually been, it's weird because which is actually making me think of, and I'm going to tell a short story because I tell stories too long. But the first production, the first production of In the Heights that I did with Steven and I played Nina and Benny opposite each other.
Oh,
my love. But I'll never forget our, I think like first or second rehearsal. Our director to start, the person who started as our director, was also the artistic director of the theater. The theater no longer exists, unfortunately. But we were rehearsing the scene where Nina tells her parents that she's left college. And this individual had I assume, very little to no knowledge of Latin culture, and loved the show, had seen it in New York, of course, wanted to bring the story. All that is amazing and progressive, and like, come on, you put brown bodies on that stage. That's beautiful. But in terms of the directing of the actual piece, we were being directed in a way that was very contrary. And I felt disrespectful to what the culture is, how we speak to each other and our family. And I am thinking now about how fear is a learned thing, because then I was young and it was pretty much like one of my first professional gigs. And I didn't think twice about saying, I would never speak to my mother that way. I would never do this. No, I don't know any Puerto Rican chick who would talk to their parents this way without getting slapped in the mouth.
No, ma'am, I want to live.
And I remember the director being like, well, just do it. And I said, no. Of course, he left our rehearsal. He ended rehearsal for us. He got mad because the rest of the Latinos in the room also spoke up. And the next day he quit as our director. And that's how Rogelio Douglas Jr. became our director. Rogelio was originally choreographing the piece, and the guy wasn't equipped to direct it. And Rogelio took over, and that's how he brought in Morgan. Rewind to episode 1. But I was just thinking about how, like, you know, it's even hard for me. I could speak up then when I was, 21, you know, but in years since then, there's so many moments that I
didn't know any better, quote, you know, it's like, no, you knew what was right and was wrong then. And you were great to say.
Yeah. And it's interesting how, like, I feel personally, I don't know if any of you feel this way as well, that I'm almost like trying to tap back in to the courageousness of my youth to find power and strength again, because somewhere in the middle there, I lost it in thinking about, like, you know, you think about real world things. I need a job. I need health insurance. I need, you know, weeks to keep my health insurance. I don't want to put myself at risk for not getting work. But to what point do we do that to ourselves? You know, do we sacrifice something greater in ourselves or our identity for that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. The business kind of makes it tough as on your precarious journey of trying to, like, hold on to stuff, and you're just like, okay, you just let things slide, you know?
Yep.
And I think a large part of oppression as a concept is that you don't really acknowledge it. That's kind of what makes oppression such a strong thing, right? You kind of let it be a thing. So in just kind of pushing it to the back, you're letting it win. But actually by being able to reclaim your time and, like, speak up and say what's up and make sure that you are knowing your own worth as a human being, you kind of push that oppression out the picture, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
As best as you can, because, you know, systemic racism and all that. But anyway.
But that's okay, because by acknowledging, we're saying, and we see you there, system.
Right.
We see you, we see you.
Right there.
Yeah, we're looking, we're watching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Best believe it.
Oh, I know it. I want to know, gentlemen, you have a almost unique perspective of all the people that have come into our on our show, that you are not Latina. Benny's in general are not Latina people. And so I kind of want to ask you about the experience of coming into a room that is all Latina actors, except for maybe you and one other Black person, and, like, what it's like to step into that community. Just coming in, I want to know. I want to know your experience. Steven.
Yay. Luckily, you know, I've been the other my entire life, the token Black guy, and then just like Alex was saying, coming to the States and like doing Black shows like Dreamgirls, I was the Canadian. So there was always something separating me. But what's funny is getting to Heights was kind of something that assembled all of us, is that we were ethnic, is that we were loud, is that we were, you know, Caribbean. I think it was the Caribbean connection that really made me feel, I felt super at home. They super welcomed me. And like Rogelio, I was like, oh, another Black dude. But he was like from
Panamanian.
So I was like, traitor. Like everybody was
traitor.
Yeah. I was like, what? No. You're Benny, but like actually you're Latino. So like whatever. But, so what's great is that I found connections in our culture, like tostones. I'm like, oh, we make that, but it's banan pizé. And like, so it was actually one of the most like unifying experiences for me, where I feel like I connected and found people like me more than like doing a Black show, doing an American Black show. So that was unique in its own as well.
Literally 100% of what you just said. Like, that's exactly what my experience was like. No question. Like, it was, doing Heights was the first time that like I said, was the first time that I felt comfortable in my own skin, truly, because I was surrounded by people who literally with open arms were like, come on in. Like, it was such a warm and welcoming family. And yeah, I saw myself. It didn't matter that someone was Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban or Mexican. Like, I saw myself in every person, because we may have different histories, but we're still living in the same America. We're still living, you know, we're experiencing a lot of the same things on these streets. So it was nice to be able to be put in that pot with all these people, all these different beautiful people, learn from them. Like, I learned about Cafecito from doing Heights. Like, I'd seen Café Bustelo before, like when I go to Bodega, but I didn't realize the power of Café Bustelo.
It has power, yes.
Okay, so that was like a great experience. Still waiting. So yeah, and like going salsa dancing, just like the energy and the spirit, and like just everyone was just embracing their culture. And not that I couldn't have found that, you know, in New York or in Ottawa, but it wasn't there, and those arms and those hands weren't there being like, come on in. Whereas I was put in this show to live in this experience with these people who are also living in this experience. So yeah, everything Stephen said.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I feel like that's, you know, we talk about the connection all the time, like, and specifically in terms of I learned so much about Haitian culture as well in terms of meeting Stephen. But I feel like it's even unifying for Latinos, you know, like, because yeah, we're Latina. It's
so many cultures.
Exactly. It's this one term, but there's so many cultures, so many countries, so many little differences in food, sometimes some big things. And you're like, wait, what is that called? What is that? Oh,
what are you calling that? That is not what that is.
Yeah. You put what in the who?
Yeah.
All right, let me eat this real quick.
Hold up.
Dope.
Well, and it's you know, it's part of the bigger part of oppression to make these groups even go up against each other, right? So like you look at different cultures that have biases against each other. Like, you know, growing up, I remember my mom, I'm trying to remember, I think she had a thing against Dominicans when I was growing up. And I remember that. And my mother, since then, she has recognized her prejudices. And when I'm sure it's somewhere in there still, but you see that, and you see colorism, and like, you know what I mean? And so that is all there to keep us even from uniting. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, I had some experiences growing up, because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, but then my family moved. I got mail. My family moved. My dad just came in the door.
Hi, Dad.
I don't know what this is. Oh wait, yes I do. Never mind. So
Yes, I'm like at your couch. I love this. Go on. This is great.
So they, when we moved to Utah, the predominant Latina community there is Mexican. And those kids wanted nothing to do with me. And I don't remember the reason why, and that gave me my first fissure, in going, well, I'm Puerto Rican and they're Mexican and I don't like that. I don't like Mexican people and they don't, and it took time for me to go. That was like mostly my impression in like junior high. In high school, I made some friends that were Mexican. I was like, okay, this is not a thing. This is something that has been created by somebody else to separate them and me. And it's working and I can't let it work. I can't let it. We have to be united. And that's one of the things I love about the show. The show brings together a bunch of Latina people and some Black people and says, you are a community of color. Stand together. It doesn't matter where your culture is. You have to stand together, and be a family, and oh man.
If you think about where it all comes from, like we're all, if you think about our colonial history, African slaves, Spanish settlers, like we're all mixtures. Like we were, and they tried to enslave, but then they're like, you're fucking hot and I want to fuck you, so let's make a baby. So everybody, so I don't
Enter
understand.
me.
Yeah.
And every Puerto Rican.
So like, I don't understand. I can't say I don't understand. I know that it's not only created by American culture. I know it's maybe part of like your initial human nature to resist something that's different. But like, we all are learning now to take that step in consciousness to where it's like, well, we're all human, we're all, we all come from the same place. Like,
and that's the sad thing is like, if you think about it too, like taking it back, let's take it back to the colonialism. Like that is the start of a lot of our biases. And why did those biases start? Out of survival, which is the shittiest part of all of this. You know what I mean? That people wanted their children to be lighter, to have lighter skin, to have lighter eyes, to have quote unquote good hair. There's a new musical that got created about two sisters who are African American and one can pass and one maybe can't. That's what lives in us now. And we may not see it as that way. And I say we, as in like maybe our generation or some, whatever. Not many present day people may see it as a survival instinct, but that's where its origins were, and it's how do we undo that? What is the beginning of undoing X amount of hundreds of years of survival, quote unquote, instincts,
Right. Well, it's like the concept of race too. Like race is really just a construct, right? Like it's not like it was used initially to separate us, right? To be like, there's the lesser thans, and then you are part of the better thans, Yeah. And I could go on a huge long rant about being biracial, which I don't even like that term. I try to like avoid using that as much as I can. And being white and Black, and how like, why am I one, but how come I can identify with one, but not really, and I can't really identify with the other, and like. I'm being someone of two races is literally the exemplification of what being pitted against each other is, because I am being pitted against myself. I've got my white side, my Black side, and they're they're doing this at all times. Where do I fit in this world? And why is that even a thing? Like, I just always think like when I don't do this, but people who like code, right? Like when you're coding and you're making something and it goes like, does not compute, like that's normally a sign you're like, oh, I got to fix that. So like, wouldn't every person like me be a representation of the fact that maybe race is something that shouldn't, I'm not saying we can't negate our Blackness, we can't negate our history, but is there, I don't know what it is, but is there another way to express or to represent our history without going off of you're Black and I'm white and you're half Black? Like these things are just, talk about oppression. Those are like inherently existing oppressive concepts.
This was just an article. I think CBS did it. It's viral. Maybe we'll add a link for people to see as well. But it's about urging Puerto Ricans to embrace their Blackness when it comes to the census and race, because same thing. There's Black, there's white. You know, there's a Pacific Islander. I think a few things like that. And so many Latinos are like, okay. What again, same thing, you know what I mean, about getting put into boxes and stuff like that. Are we talking about skin color? Are we talking about internal identity? What are we talking about here? You know,
well, and along the kind of following all this, there's all these little things within our culture that are, I guess, microaggressions. So like I remember growing up, my mom would take me to the salon to get my hair cut or whatever, and they would see my beautiful tight curly hair and say, tiene pelo malo. The pelo malo means bad hair.
Yeah.
And that's what they call tight, natural hair that gets sent on down through our beautiful Black ancestors. Yeah. Pelo malo. And when I was actually talking to my mom about this a few weeks ago, where she would call it pelo malo, but she's not thinking bad. She's just thinking that's what you call the hair. You know, that's right. You know, she's not saying it's bad. That's just what it's called. And I'm like, but you understand that growing up as a little girl, people would tell me pelo malo, pelo malo, pelo malo all the time. And it gave me a complex about my hair. As soon as I had control of it, I straightened it. As soon as I had any power over it, I took chemicals and put them to my hair, you know, because I thought, well, it's bad, isn't it? You know? And so it made her start to reassess that, like, why is that name? You know, why are they calling it pelo malo? Why? You know, who decided that? I'm going to tell you who decided that. A bunch of white people decided it. So, like,
it makes me, yeah. Go.
Huh?
No, go on.
The hair.
No, the baby's hair. She's beautiful. That curly mane.
You know,
look at.
And everybody loves her hair, just like natural as it is. So this is like one way we're creating change, you know. And there was this Emmy-winning short about a Black.
I did. I saw that one. It was so good.
You know, and for kids to be watching this now and being like, you know, my hair is beautiful and there's so many fun things I can do with it. I can braid it, I can cornrow it, or I can just leave it natural, you know. And everybody's telling her, oh, we love your curly hair, you know. I guess that's one of the ways we're like sort of changing our view of it, or at least for them to at least think better of themselves, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The show.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out different words for it. I'm like, you mean my crown of hair?
Crown of hair.
My mane of hair? I mean,
I wish I could grow hair like yours. My God.
Right.
Not anymore. The white side took that away from me.
Oh!
They stay taking things away. Damn.
On the genetic level.
Genetics.
White from the waist up, black from the waist down.
This is what happens when we say we're uncensored. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Your fault.
Your fault.
Look, I like it. I'm into it. We are doing so good on time, you guys. I'm really proud of us.
Yes.
So really quick, are there any organizations, any projects, any theaters, anything that you want to shout out? We will make sure that there's a link. If it's on Instagram, it'll be on either side. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be linked below. Alex, you got some?
I'll give two. I want to give one for Berkshire Theater Group out in Massachusetts. They're one of the two theaters that have been allowed to open. Well, Berkshire Theater Group in Barrington, both in Massachusetts, have been granted permission by Equity to start performances. So Berkshire Theater Group is doing an outdoor version of Godspell. People are going to park in their cars. I'm planning on going to see it. I don't exactly know how this is all going to work, but they have some sort of I think it's going to be a radio station or something you can actually watch from your cars. It's going to be really kind of yeah, like next level, new experience. It's very kind of new age. I think it's exciting. I love that they're being able to find ways to bring theater to people safely. So I want to shout them out. I also want to remind everyone that if you want to see change and you have the money, please donate to campaigns of senators and representatives and city councilors and state attorney generals and treasurers all up and down the line. You've got to be making sure if you have the money and you can afford to spare a little money, look and do your research and find out about the people in your district or other districts. Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, we got to get rid of Lindsey Graham.
Hello.
Sarah Gideon in Maine, we got to get rid of Susan Collins.
Hello.
We can go on and we can go on. We can go on. Cal Cunningham, get rid of Tom Tillis. There's a lot of stuff we've got to do to make sure that we are being represented so that we see the America that we live in. So yeah, those are my two.
Mine are arts centered. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Story Pirates. Storypirates.org. It's a company I've been working for since I moved to New York. Their goal is to just promote arts education in schools. We go to schools, we help children write stories, and then we come back and perform them.
I have a friend that's a story pirate in California.
Yes, they're also in LA and New York. And we perform at public schools, and such a great organization to work for.
Doing the work.
Storypirates.org, love them. And I came across this cool website, beanartshero.com, which kind of is an assemble, they kind of assembled a bunch of different projects to help unions, organizations for arts culture. So like, if you want to know which senators to email to make sure we get relief for artists, for musicians or for actors, they have a bunch of links on that website. So I would say that's a good resource to further information for yourself on where to send your money if you've got it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we always say it.
No handle.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're feeling like tipping us, we will not say no. They're about to stop giving us relief when we ain't got jobs.
Okay.
I always say this, if you've got an extra $10, it's amazing what you can do with an extra $10. Send 2 here, 2 there, 2, and 2 by 2, these organizations will get helped if enough of us just take a little extra time and be like, you know what, I don't need these $2. I'm going to send this over here. I don't need this other $2. I'm going to send it over there. So please, please, please donate. Of course, donate to Black Lives Matter. And if you see a petition that's trying to help the arts, please sign it. Honestly, truly, I think people, and I have had this happen to me. There have been many days where I'm like, my identity is so tied to what we do that to hear over and over again that what we do is not essential makes making me feel like I'm not essential, like I'm not worth anything. Don't worry, I fight through it. I know I'm worth a lot.
Yes,
but, people forget how heavily the United States is leaning on the arts right now, leaning on music, leaning on shows, movies, leaning on art to hold them up, to bolster them during very, very, very dark times, and so to say that the arts are not essential is just not true. It's just not true. We cannot do theater safely yet. I mean, we've got a couple of theaters that are going to try it. We cannot do theater safely yet, but it does not mean that it is not essential. So please, please sign petitions in order to help the arts stay afloat and alive and going until we can once again do it safely, all in one big room.
Yeah. And wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Please wear a mask.
Wear a damn mask, would you?
Wear a damn mask.
Come on.
Especially if we don't get that extension for unemployment and that support, guess what? And our industry doesn't come back, all y'all not wearing masks, it's your fault, and I'm knocking on your door.
Don't knock on the door. You're going to get the corona. Stay away from their door.
You're right. I'm going to have a shield in front of me. Still be.
Oh, my gosh. Gentlemen, it has been such a pleasure having you here today with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
So much. For those of you watching and or listening, you can catch us on Instagram at Café Con Leche ITH. You can watch us on YouTube at Café Con Leche with Alyssa and Lil. We fixed the name because there was a problem with the name, but we fixed it. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. I know we are
everywhere.
Please follow us on Instagram. We just started a new series every Monday called AMP Mondays, where we amplify an artist, BIPOC artist every Monday. We just did one on Love Jones, music producer. So please go check that out. As ever, thank you so much for coming on and listening. And we always hope that you have your café exactly the way you like it. Bye.
Thank you,
See you soon.
Bye-bye.